Over the course of more than a decade, he has been quietly monitoring the inner workings of Ripple, XRP, and a number of the most powerful banks in international finance. It is impossible for the XRP community and even mainstream crypto analysts to ignore the information that he has been releasing, despite the fact that he claims to have deep contacts as a former London banker who has direct access to Ripple's strategy. Over the course of today, we are going to discuss in detail what this may imply for those that possess XRP. Now, let's create the atmosphere. On the basis of his previous handle, the following is what is stated. During the late afternoon in London, senior executives from 3 of the greatest financial organizations in the world convened inside a boardroom that was located in a high-rise building and had a view of Canary Wharf. I was there as one of the directors with responsibility for monitoring the cross-border settlement plan, and I was there representing Ripple. There was a professional and almost clinical vibe about the environment. There was a scattering of spreadsheets over the table. In addition to simulations, course models, forecasts, and efficiency, transactions are also included. Everything has been prepared with great care. The evidence could not be refuted. 1 XRP is equivalent to 1 million drops, and the typical transaction requires approximately 10 drops, which is equivalent to 0.00001 XRP. When compared to other tiers, the cost efficiency was unparalleled. Everyone on the executive team was aware of the implications. There is a possibility that profit margins may increase, that client fees will decrease, and that settlement times would decrease from days to mere seconds. Compliance, know your customer, anti-money laundering, and identity verification protocols needed to be properly synchronized. This was the only remaining hurdle. On the other hand, once they were, the system would accomplish what international financial institutions had been working toward for decades: immediate settlement, total transparency, and scalable profitability across international borders are provided. There was no cloud cover that afternoon. It had previously been planned out how global payments would develop in the future. This is some insider information, discoveries from within. After some time had passed, Lord Belgrade made a conjecture about this matter, indicating that banks are ready to accept an XRP valuation of $100,000 under the conditions of institutional settlement. He added that the price of 1 XRP bank dropped by 10. It is impossible to find a more efficient method of doing things as long as the price of XRP stays below $1. If this threshold is exceeded, the operational models of banks may begin to lose their effectiveness. There have been non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, secret talks, and discrete alliances between Ripple, big institutions, and central banks in Belgrade throughout the course of the years. It is his assertion that there has been no significant shift. The events that are taking place are exactly as they were planned to take place behind closed doors. A few days ago, he tweeted about an XRP ETP that was in the process of being developed across the EU and the United Kingdom. There is a convergence occurring between regulatory frameworks, custody solutions, and institutional assets. He stated that once this is launched, a torrent of complaints and liquidity could flood the market. Therefore, it is important to keep a close eye on London and Frankfurt. Frankfurt and London are both important institutional hubs. Throughout Ripple's European strategy, London plays a pivotal role. In the very center of the city's banking area, there are plans to establish a new office. The objective is to collaborate directly with financial institutions, regulatory bodies, and companies that deal with tokenization and digital assets. The regulatory structure in the United Kingdom is becoming more and more favorable towards digital assets. As part of its efforts to ensure that XRP liquidity products are compatible with ever-evolving regulations, Ripple is actively engaged in policy talks. The London Stock Exchange is set to be the first to list new exchange-traded funds, which will provide institutional investors with access to compliant securities. Another important hub is Frankfurt, Germany, which is the national capital of finance. Already listed on the EICTERA exchange are a number of exchange-traded products, ETPS, and cryptocurrency investment products. The creation of secure custody solutions and the acceleration of the adoption of compliant liquidity are both being driven by partnerships between Ripple and big European investment firms. XRP's institutional expansion in Europe is supported by these two cities, which together represent the backbone of the expansion. Adoption in the real world is what this is. According to Lord Belgrave, genuine transformation is not something that happens very often. The technology developed by Ripple has already made its way into the infrastructure, providing power to Visa Direct, MasterCard, American Express, and FX international payments platforms. The possibilities of XRP are being quietly tested by these platforms, which are building the framework for a transition away from just communications and toward value transfer. In addition, Belgrave points out that the fact that XRP is traded on retail platforms may potentially restrict its actual potential. The distortion of an asset that was designed for institutional liquidity occurs when the asset is caught in speculative markets. In order for XRP to function within the rails that it was created for, it must first function. This includes on-ledger utility, cross-border flow, and institutional settlement. Nothing is a coincidence in the world of money. Narratives are only constructed by governments and the media after plans have already been carried out, and they do so by employing distraction, emotion, and psychological principles to shape perception. Therefore, here are some examples of institutional use, the big picture. Fascinating applications for XRP include derivatives markets, which are among the most fascinating applications. This is not a discussion about remittances or payments on a small scale. Currently, the entire economy of the entire world is in motion. Now, let's take a look at some numbers. $100 trillion is the global gross domestic product. $1.2 quadrillion is the total notional value of all derivatives. In terms of interest rate swaps, universities is the single largest derivative. There are millions of traders and millions of accounts, all of which are clearing and settling complicated financial transactions because distributed ledger technology has the potential to simplify these processes. Dodd-Frank Act compliance: extensive, difficult, and time-consuming. This entire system might be simplified with the help of XRP, which would replace opaque processes with ones that are transparent, efficient, and secure. Introducing Evernorth, a vision for open and honest liquidity. Rob Cunningham does a good job framing it. The established order is falling apart. The era of opaque systems that have been founded on debt and dishonesty for decades is giving way to distributed ledgers that are transparent and the truth that cannot be changed. Evernorth, a firm that is listed on the NASDAQ, is developing into a public-private XRP Treasury Liquidity Center. This provides the foundation for the new economy, which is based on accountability, honesty, and perpetual mathematics. Through its retail XRP circulation and institutional escrow programs, Evernorth serves as a vital link. All of these flows come together in a central treasury pool, which can be pictured as a living, breathing creature that controls liquidity, pulsating with life and representing an open and honest exchange of value that is transparent. Over the course of the following 10 years, Evernorth is expected to develop into a worldwide treasury that is ruled by mathematics and is responsible for managing liquidity in accordance with the unchanging ideals of truth, balance, and order, XRP Army and market dynamics.